We are good.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, Sade Norwood,
Yes.
welcome to the Better Gents podcast.
Yes, happy to be here.
Yes, we are so glad to have you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Can't wait to discuss what we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, so I've been listening to the pod since the first episode, so I'm excited to be on the episode today.
Yeah, right on.
Absolutely. How you feeling?
High-key tired.
I keep tired. I love the transparency. I love it. I really do.
Yeah, I've been busy, but it's good busy, but yeah. So to segue into my busyness, I am a published author, poet, screenwriter, and creative writing instructor. I have my book here. Always got to plug side pieces. You can find it on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. I believe it's on Walmart.com as well. So it's my collection of poetry. And bi-monthly, I host a creative writing workshop titled The Writer's Block Cure, where I help other creatives sort through writer's block and any kind of helping them with finding continuous streams of inspiration so that way they can create consistently. I use like music and visual arts because that's like a big influence for me. So yeah, follow me on Instagram at Sade_The Writer. And Sade is spelled like the singer, S-A-D-E.
She makes beautiful music, by the way.
Yeah, she makes beautiful music. I make beautiful words. You know, it's just like perfect.
So I'm a little curious though. What was the driving force, that passion to get into doing what you're doing now?
So that's a loaded question.
Yeah, there's probably a lot to unpack there.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's a lot.
Coming out with the guns right away.
Hey, Chris, can you turn that down a little bit? Just a little bit, the music.
I gotcha. Yep.
Awesome.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
So, I was born a creative. I was really into music, and I sang in a traveling choir, gospel choir, for a long time, for like about 9 years. I danced for like 7 years, and for a while I thought maybe I would go into like music possibly, because I was really like into it. Like I grew up with music videos being like these cinematic masterpieces. Like I used to watch MTV making the video. Like I loved all of that. And I segued into film. I had my mom's camcorder, and I would make like movies in the backyard. Like this is like right after the Blair Witch Project.
Oh yeah.
So it was like shaky camera, like up close shots type of thing. And then a family member actually told me that in order to make movies you have to have money. So I'm like, okay, well maybe I'll write movies like instead. And then I started writing, and then that I would write in like prose, so like story format, and then eventually got into poetry when I went to college. And I don't know, it's just always been something that was really something that never went away. Like I would go into corporate America and be really unhappy. And well, actually, to backtrack a little bit, I went to a Christian high school, and the graduation ceremony is like the dean of the school, not the dean, it's like he was the, what's bigger than the dean? I forget, like the administrator or something. He would pray over each student, each graduating senior, and like say something kind of like a prophecy type of thing. And no one knew, none of the administration knew that I was actually that I wanted to be a writer. It was something that like my friends knew about, but everyone thought I was going to school to be a doctor, which is like another story. So I had applied to school under pre-med. So I was going to Virginia State University under like pre-med. So his prayer was that your words are going to be heard all over the world. So when he said that, I'm like, okay, this is God telling me like I need to stop playing around and just like do this writing thing. And so when I went to school, changed my major to English, and then, you know, started doing my thing.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I love to see that passion, so that's the reason why I was asking.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Are you a creative as well?
In different ways. Not a singer or anything like that. You hear this voice. It's not. I'm not shaped for that.
I mean, you could. You never know.
I don't think people will be listening to it. It's a difference. But no, I'm creative in the aspect of like woodworking and that kind of stuff. So virtually try to make art out of wood. And that comes in multiple different formats. So, but I've been doing that for I don't know. Since I was a young teenager.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What's the name of the business as well?
Yeah. So my business partner and I, we just recently formed a company called Ingrained Gallery.
Ooh.
So where pretty much we take, any custom request out there. If you can think about it or think of it, we can build you it, so,
Cool.
And it could be as big and as small as what you want. So
That's really cool. See, you have to have a certain vision for that, I'm not, when it comes to creativity, I'm not the best when it comes to tangible things, but film and poetry, that's something that comes natural to me. So I find it really cool that you're able to manipulate wood and create a masterpiece. That's really dope.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, pretty much if I can visualize it, I can build it. So
That's cool.
yeah, it's one of the fortunate traits that I have, so which I'm very thankful for.
You had some art at your house as well that you had painted.
Yeah, that was many years ago. Had to be 18 years ago. I was really big into painting, and I actually had a showing at a gallery right outside of Hyde Park. And that was, like I said, a number of years ago. But my wife has really kind of taken those reins now, and she's always painting or doing something in that kind of artistic realm.
Yeah.
So, which is beautiful because it always keeps her going.
So do you think that because you're a creative and your wife is a creative, do you think that adds a deeper layer to your relationship or to your marriage? Because I feel like creatives think very differently.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
I think that if you're with another creative, the relationship is that has more depth to it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the relationship I have now with my wife is just, not now, but always. It's amazing. I've never had a relationship like this. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, it's a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
Sade, you seem intrigued by that.
It is, 'cause,
Yeah.
well, that everybody has a list, right? And
I think that list is just so overrated, though. It really is because
you have standard. It's I have parameters. I'm not saying that this is it. If nobody meets this criteria, it's a dub. I'm just saying I have an outline of what I would want. And being a creative is really important because the friendships that I have with creatives, it's just deeper. I don't know how to explain. It's just, I know I need that from my lifelong partner.
Yeah, I think people, in my point of view here, so, take it for what it's worth.
Okay.
But I think people that get caught up on just focusing on those lists, checking that box per se, right? They overlook probably the most important thing out there, which is how does this other person make you guys both better together? And which is the most important thing? Because
it makes me better because he's a creative.
Okay. All right. You checked the box. I got you.
No, I'm kidding. But I understand what you're saying. And I think there's some things that are a little ridiculous, right? For women, and not to shade other girls or anything like that, but some people have a height requirement, or some people have this or that are, I feel, is a little superficial. But I'm also short. So for me, I don't care about the height. It doesn't take much for me to find a guy that's taller than me. So I don't really care if he's 6 foot or 5'9". But the things that I have are creative, somebody that believes in God, that's a spirit, not only believes in God, but actually does the things, goes to church, serves in church, is about it. And what are the other things I have? Well, those are top tier. Those are top 2, creative and spirit, and having a being a spiritual person, being rooted in God, and having that faith. That's really important to me. Because how I envision my marriage is that we go to church together, we serve together. Prayer is really important to me. I'm teaching my daughter to pray, constantly. And so I need someone that has that same energy, essentially, like, because I'm bringing this person into my home, he's going to be helping me raise my daughter, or if he has kids, helping. We're all going to be this one unit. So that's really important to me, that prayer life. So yeah, those two, it's not a lot. See?
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, those are, it's not too much, but
Yeah.
you know, I feel like with the way you're speaking, and most likely the areas that you go to, like church and things like that, I mean, that's for you, that would be kind of an easy win in that aspect of finding that person that's going to lift you up and, you know, meet those, if you will, requirements that you have. Because chances are he probably has the same requirements as well.
Right.
You know, you just never know until you have that conversation.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. Did you have like I know I had heard that on the last episode that David had ran off his 20 things on his list of the ideal
Was it
woman.
20?
It was about like 20, 25.
I think that's an exaggeration, but that's all right.
Did you have like an idea, or you know, going into when you were dating prior to getting married?
Did I have an idea? I mean, idea of things I'm looking for, or what I want in a partner.
Yeah, like it's like non-negotiables. These are non-negotiables I will want to have in a partner.
I mean, the first one for me is just, you know, having someone that's, you know, devoted, that's in it, has that same outlook as what you do. You know, because previous marriage, won't get into all that, but I'll just say it was less than great. And I mean, even we should have realistically never got married to begin with, because I feel like our relationship was just kind of based on the wrong stuff, and not how to actually grow and just become a unit, you know. And I don't say that from an aspect of like the old school kind of male aspect of I'm going to dominate this relationship. Nothing like that. It's just being able to actually communicate on a real level that's constructive and beautiful. Didn't have that. So in addition to that, you know, for my current wife, the biggest requirement that I had is how well will I be able to communicate with her? Because I'm all about, you know, let's talk about things, not in the aspect of, you know, I want to talk about everything, you know, like there's a time and place for everything, but to be able to have that equal on the other side that you can run an idea by, or talk about something that may be bothering you, and you don't have to worry about that recourse. You know, she just knows that she's going to look at it and be like, okay, maybe I'm not hitting all the things here, so I need to kind of reshape this and make it a better experience for the both of us.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in return, because I expect that, you know, it's, if you can't talk to your partner, then you don't have nothing with that partner.
What's the point? Yeah.
Yeah. So those were kind of the big things I had. Not really much, but, you know, going into this, like, I knew I wanted to be with her pretty much right away. So.
See, I hear guys say that, and like, what did you know that you knew that this was the one? You know, like, what is...
Well, so my experience, when I first met her, I was hanging out with some old friends, and I ended up seeing her, and I ended up telling my friends, I was like, you know, right away when I saw her, I was like, if I do anything tonight, the only thing I want to do is go up and talk to her. And because I knew I wanted to, you know, see where that can go. Yeah, I didn't know her. She was a complete stranger. Like... Yeah, seriously, it really was. And it was a weird experience, because I used to travel all the time for work. I would leave on Sunday and come back Friday night, and I would do that for, I mean, there was some years that it was, you know, 40, 42 weeks, maybe even more weeks of the year. So I'm home for a day and a half. And so I got her number, and I was traveling for work, you know, all the time. And, you know, a week and a half, 2 weeks later, you know, we started to conversate and that kind of stuff. And, you know, it wasn't until like, I don't know, maybe a month or after that, somewhere after that, that we actually went on our first date. And I mean, it was just amazing. Aww. So I was like, yeah, this girl's good. You know, she's great. She's what I'm looking for. Matter of fact, Chris over here, I call him Kenny. He and I were actually roommates at the time, and I ended up telling him about it, and you know,
we were,
yeah. And about 6 months in, you know, we were dating. It wasn't like official yet, because I was definitely taking my time, you know, just given the past. And so at that point, I ended up flying her up to New York. And I just remember I, picked her up. She flew into LaGuardia and then got a cab ride over to Grand Central. Mm-hmm. And I remember picking her up. She's wearing this cute coat and, has her luggage. And it definitely like something out of like a rom-com movie, And I remember I took a picture of like the light that they had on Grand Central, which was right next to where she was standing, so we can have that memory. So now it's framed in our house as like a lasting memory. It's just a beautiful experience. But I knew going into that, I had told Kenny over here prior to that that essentially if she's not on board for something more, then we're going to be going our own way.
Yeah.
And intentional.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to live that life. And I was anticipating having that conversation, and I didn't even need to have it because she came to me with that conversation.
What?
And I was like, it was so beautiful. I was planning on doing it. I was nervous about doing it, of course, but I planned on doing it by, say, X time of us being up in New York, and didn't need to wait that long. So,
Wow.
Yeah, so it was great. It's a great experience.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And now we've been together for it's almost 9 years now.
What?
Married for
Wow.
3, coming up on 3. Yeah. I'm
That's
terrible
dope.
with dates, so.
Dude, 9 years already? Holy
Yeah, man.
cow.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
So.
We just spoke about that last podcast. Like, time flies, man.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
seriously. Seriously. So anyway, enough about me. I know you came on this show. You had
Yes.
some important topics that we wanted to kind of just address or just discuss, because given the current environment, things that are going on, in the U.S., I feel like it would be definitely great. So I'll actually turn it back over to you, and you take the reins.
All right. So, Roe versus Wade is all over the news right now of it being overturned. And for me, well, obviously I'm a woman, and I don't like not having the option, right? So I'm pro-choice, and I feel like the government shouldn't, that shouldn't be something that they need to regulate or dictate, but they also should allow a woman to choose. There's so many factors as to why. Well, for one, it takes a lot of courage and to even make that appointment, to even go through with an abortion. And especially someone that may have grew up in church and have they're battling with guilt and judgments from their family and friends or peers or their partner or boyfriend or whomever, and to take that choice away from them, I feel like it's really unfair, and it's not their place to do that.
Yeah, I say this from a man's standpoint, that I will be the first to admit that I would never even be able to understand that internal fight that you would have as a woman to make that appointment. No less you show up to those places that have those or that do those procedures, and you have all these people, say, picketing out front, and or trying to guilt you or something like that, which compounds all that. And you'd have to be a pretty strong person to go forward with something like that, just because that's a lot, mentally and physically.
And I feel like they paint this picture of sexually frivolous women are the only ones that want to have abortions and are pro-choice, and that's not at all the case.
Right. I think the common thing regarding this topic that's very, very much overlooked is the aspect of there's been just the same amount of men that has benefited from these types of procedures that, but they put all this ownership on the women, and sometimes, women may have them because, well, there could be a number of reasons, really, but
so many.
But it could be from pressure from her partner or something like that. So she does that. Meanwhile, the man benefits, but it's now just focused on the woman this, the woman that, which, it's not right in so many levels.
Not at all. I will admit that I did have an abortion. I was in my early 20s, and my boyfriend at the time didn't want me to do it, which was kind of an anomaly, I guess. But at the time, I felt like, one, our relationship wasn't in the best place to bring a child into the world That's how I felt.
Okay.
And I just knew that I wanted to be more financially stable. I just knew that I wasn't ready. So I went ahead and did it. He was not happy about it at all. It actually kind of broke us up. I think we broke up shortly after that. But yeah, like I've heard stories of we were listening to an episode on the way here where she was giving a story about what the process was like at Planned Parenthood and how she felt really alone and really cold. I didn't have that experience. I didn't go to a Planned Parenthood. I went to a women's clinic that was local near my house. It wasn't like a franchise type of thing, like well, I don't know if Planned Parenthood's franchise, but there wasn't like multiple locations. And they asked me, like, are you sure? Have you considered other options? Have you considered adoption? Have you considered this? And so it wasn't like they were forcing me. And I hear that story a lot where they feel like they're just a number coming to get this procedure. And the clinic that I went to was very empathetic and wanted me to understand that this is not the only way. If you want to do it, then we'll go ahead and make the appointment, but there's other options out there for you. So
it wasn't like low-key guilt that they were trying to give you to prevent you from doing this.
No, it didn't feel that way. It felt like it was more informative. Like, these are options for you. And I was adopted, so I knew that I didn't want to go with the adoption route. I just felt like if I'm gonna have a child, then I might as well have the child. That's just my perspective of going through the 9 months just to give it away. I feel like that's more heartbreaking. But yeah, I didn't have that experience, and I'm thankful that they did put that out there for me to let me know, like, if I did decide to change my mind, that there's these other resources that I can go to. So, but I know that's not everyone's story.
Yeah, fair enough. So, yeah, I mean, just to show up to one of those facilities, like, so, story that I have, well, not me, but it was actually my wife had. So when she was younger, before she wanted her parents to know that I guess she was sexually active or whatever, she would go to Planned Parenthood to actually get her birth control. And we were actually just talking about this last night, and she would go there and she would go through all these people that are picketing and all this kind of stuff, and they're trying to guilt her on, not to go through with this procedure, right? And she's like, of course these people don't need to know my business, but she's like, I'm literally here just for birth
Prevention,
control, not to get pregnant, kind of thing. And she's like, it's just so funny how people have it fixated that life is such one way and you can't see the other way. Like there's no two sides, so it's kind of comical in that aspect.
And to that point, there's so many girls. I know I did not feel comfortable talking about anything relating to sex with my parents, especially my mom. And I went to a Christian school, and the health class is pretty much abstinence, right? They teach you about abstinence, and then they teach you about AIDS. It's like it's like this broad spectrum. They don't teach you about like your body as a woman and preventative methods or the why you should be abstinent. It's more of like, don't do it because it's not God's will. But they don't go into like why that, they don't explain it. Like the way that I understand sex and losing your virginity and all of that, I understand it from a different perspective now, spiritually and biblically, than I did in high school, because they just didn't explain it to me that way. Like I value it now, and when I'm teaching my daughter about it, I'll explain it to her in the way that I understand it now, so that way she doesn't have to go through 10 years of not understanding why she should have sex or feeling guilty every time she does, if she does decide to do that. If the government wants to get involved with abortions, they also need to get involved with sex education, and like it being actual education and not just teaching kids one way or the other, like teaching them about birth control, but also teaching them about the effects of birth control, because there's so many girls now that started taking birth control as teenagers that are struggling to get pregnant present day. Teaching them that, teaching men about consent, like that's a huge thing.
Oh yeah,
I didn't know about consent, to be honest. It was something I figured out along the way. But yeah, there's so many different things that if the government wants to regulate having a child or not having a child, they need to go back to like, how did this person end up in this situation anyway? Like, there isn't enough education out there that way that they can make an informed decision.
So that actually brings up a real good question for our Better Gents podcast here. What would your advice be on educating, younger men on how to approach or view this topic?
I'm gonna let the man. You have a son, right? So, like, what's your conversations like with him?
Well, as far as I think that young men need to do some research on this subject as well, and there needs to be more like us as communities. We can create like videos and content to kind of show them and give them some guidance on what happens from these things, like psychologically. It has a huge impact on women. Just like that video we were watching on our way over here to the podcast, the woman was saying that a lot of trauma came from that, from her aborting her child. She went through years of like binge drinking and drugs and all that. Like, she felt terrible, and then she felt like her relationship with God was destroyed, and she felt like God was mad at her. And we know that God gives a lot of grace, and I think that first of all, like, when you ask for God's forgiveness, don't dwell on it. Try your best. It's a process. I mean, it's a process, and that's what she had to go through. She had to go through a process of actually accepting and letting go. And it's not easy. It's not an easy process. But God wouldn't want you to, stay upset with yourself, and I'm sure a lot of women, go through this, man. And there's, I mean, when you start talking about this type of stuff, man, there's so many layers to it. This is a huge subject, and I really think the government needs to stay out of it. This is ultimately a woman's choice. The woman who's going to be carrying this child, government has no business telling her what to do with her body.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah,
that
I agree with that.
And that's I think when another thing that's overlooked is, if you remove that ability to have that decision, what happens if, kind of the worst scenario happens where a man gets physical with a woman, not with her consent,
Right.
and she ends up pregnant with a child that she never wanted to have because she didn't even have a choice in the matter.
Right.
It's a good question. Yep. And that's one of the more important things we got to talk about. I mean, it's a small percentage of occurrences, but it still is a factor. And what does a woman do at that point? Basically, she's forced to have that child against her will, which nobody can agree with. There's nothing good about that. And what are the long-term effects of this decision to overturn Roe v. Wade? Right? There are states, half of the states are poised already to make it illegal to have an abortion. What are going to be the long-term ramifications of something like this? Especially within minority communities like the Black community. The majority of abortions are had by young Black females. What happens when it's illegal for them to do that? And what is the government going to do to sort of, I don't want to say compensate, but to ensure that, those young women who are now forced to bear those children that they didn't want to have, how are they going to survive, right? There's going to be long-term ramifications to that decision, and that's what we really need to focus on. The short term is, your rights have been stripped, and that I agree, that's terrible. What happens 10 years from now? What's going to happen to the next generation? I don't think many people are considering that. They're just talking about, what's going on now. We got to really dig into the future of this thing as well.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great point, Chris.
What actually happens to the child? You know, like no one's thinking about. They're thinking about, you know, the fetus, right? That heartbeat, but they're not thinking about what's going to happen to the child. You know, most times women that are going forward with having an abortion, it could be from a sexual assault. It could be a girl that's, you know, in law school that just feels like she's it's not possible to have this child right now. Like I have things that I want to pursue or things that I want to do.
Or if you find out there's something drastically wrong with the
exactly.
child.
That's a whole
live
other aspect.
like a less than of quality of a life.
Yeah, the child is going to be born to just feel immense pain. You know, like how is that? And think about the psychological damage it does to the parents. You know, having to watch their child go through something like that. Like it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's terrifying to think about.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. You can catch all of our episodes on YouTube and Spotify at Better Gents Podcast, and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Better Gents Pod. Thank you and take care.